Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim, and our guest today is Hamza. So Hamza, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do.
Perfect. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, so my name is Hamza Naqvi. I live here in Connecticut, and I'm an entrepreneur. With my wife and family, we own a few different brands that we run. We've been on Shark Tank twice. We're one of 5 people who've ever been on Shark Tank twice with 2 different companies. And prior to my entrepreneur journey, I was a managing director at a hedge fund, so finance. Left that field, got into entrepreneurship, and have never looked back.
Amazing. So in terms of your Shark Tank brand, let's just talk about those. Obviously, I mean, most people have not been on the show. So I'm curious, like, what were those brands? What was your experience being on Shark Tank both times?
Sure. Yeah. First, one of our brands, the first one was Kudo Bands. It's a positive reinforcement tool for kids from 3 to 5 to get them to from 3 to 8 to become better listeners and more confident kids. Listen, the Shark Tank process is a very challenging process, and it's not for everybody else. Our experience, deal, no deal, is still one of amazing because, being able to say you're on Shark Tank, so at the end of the day, it's an experience that if you as an entrepreneur think you're up for it and you think you are up for the amount of vigor it takes to understand to get on the show, they're looking really for people who understand their business front to back and can articulate it. And also, how many people don't get a deal, right? You see that, and how sometimes it's challenging the way you are portrayed, or the sharks don't like your idea at all. And that's fine. I think what's the story right now? Canva is a huge company right now, right? And I don't think anyone can live without Canva right now. But if you hear the story of that founder, I think she said she got rejected 100 times by 100 different investors, money, VCs, whatever it is, before someone gave her the first yes. So think about that, like what it takes as an entrepreneur to keep taking rejection. No, your idea doesn't work. Messaging's not right. Whatever, you're not the right person, whatever it is. So it takes a little bit of crazy to be able to put up with that and still go through.
Yeah, I mean, Airbnb has like a similar story too, where they, got rejected so many times. So in terms of your other brand, what was that was on Shark Tank?
Sure. My other brand was, after this, my sons, as a school project, needed to invent a company and a product invention convention. It was through the USPTO, and they do this in middle schools across America. And one of my sons had an idea of, hey, it's Christmas time, ornaments fall off a tree. It's kind of weird. Hooks and ribbons are the only thing. They've been around for God knows how long. There must be a better way. There isn't. I researched, Googled, hey, do you think this is something I could invent? He came up, he sketched it, he had an idea, prototyped it. That was the project he worked on in school. Did really well, etc. And his older brother said, hey, what if we actually make that a company and try to sell the product? Mom and dad, we thought it was a great idea for them to learn how to create a product, bring it to market. Never thought we'd make any money off of it. 3 years later, cover of CNN, Entrepreneur, everywhere else, Lowe's, Ace Hardware stores. It's called Ornament Anchor and a Shark Tank, and it's a way for people to put up so that their Christmas ornaments never fall off a tree.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, that's awesome when you get your kids involved and they create this idea and you're able to go and bring it to market. So in terms of all of your businesses, like, how do you manage your time and manage all of these brands like at the same time?
That is the eternal problem of how to manage your time and be effective. I think there's a lot of words, right? Managing your time, but also being effective in the time you have to be able to manage them, right? So that's always challenging. And I don't foresee to think that I have a way of doing it, but it's almost like I really like lists a lot and organizing myself and knowing what I need to accomplish. First half of the day, the second half of the day, where the needle is. Obviously, small business owner, anything can happen at any time and you have to pivot. And there's the beauty in being that, where you have flexibility. And there's the beauty of it where you have to find the time that might be traditional as well. So for example, yesterday, if it's a Monday and I have the opportunity to go somewhere or do something during the day, I have to find the time at night. I have to delegate. I have to know, hey, this is what I have to get to. I think part of it could be because you know the buck stops on you, there is no time off or slacking off.
For sure, yeah, 100%. I mean, do you have like a big team that, works like underneath you or that you're managing, or what does that look like for you?
Sure. No, we have a small team for our brands. It's not very big. We're very lean. We actually do have a lot of off different consultants that work, but our team is, less than 7 people. So
Wow.
it's less than 7 people. So it's very interesting. That's also challenging of how to keep the team motivated, but you kind of set parameters and you give everyone, and you constantly are treating, I think, people being an adult. And I think they appreciate that, where it's just like, hey, you have goals and I need you to accomplish them. And however you're accomplishing them is fine, but that's challenging.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely hard to find good people. So, I
Well,
mean, yeah, like how have you found those, 7 key people that have worked for you?
it's always come so very naturally, right? Sometimes I feel like when we've had to like try to find someone and it works naturally, right? When we were small, just starting out, and we started both companies in COVID. So it was a very interesting time to start, right? You're
Right.
working from home, you need people. We were able to find some, local people that were like, hey, we can help out. And it was basically an ops and fulfillment that they were working on, but they got to work and we got to know them and they got to understand the process. And then they kind of started using some of their skill sets in other places. And they kind of grew within the company to like, hey, I can manage all social media. And I actually do enjoy making TikToks, right? Because it's interesting, right? Go back 2020, 2021, everyone's in COVID. TikTok is brand new. It's a dance thing. You start utilizing it from a corporate point of view. You don't know what you're doing. Maybe you're a creative person, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, I enjoyed kind of writing little scripts and trying to do something cool.
No, that's cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so now, that person might be running, all of our social media for us, So sometimes you just find people and that it's very organic and stuff. We've obviously tried the traditional routes and sometimes we've gotten people. 2 of our people have come traditional routes, put up a job, look for it, interview, do all of that and stuff.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's cool. You were saying that you found people locally, and you also mentioned
Yeah.
that you have a global team, right?
Yeah, we have a global team. So our team that handles some of our media buying is located somewhere else, right? And that's the Shark Tank effect. So I have such a big connections with so many different Shark Tank founders across the US spread out, and you reach out and you lean on them, say, hey guys, I'm really in the market for someone who's more boutiquey, who runs media buying, who's really good, who's worked with someone that fits that. And then you might have 4 or 5 people saying, I think I have the guy for you, I have the team for you. And then you kind of vet them out and feel like, hey, will they work for us?
Makes sense. No, it's cool. Yeah, because it's cool to have that network and those folks. So, what would you say is the biggest challenge overall that you face in your businesses?
I think the biggest challenge when you are a small business, sub, so many $1 million and stuff, I think one thing that's very hard, especially in retail e-commerce, is constantly with the whole cash flow, right? And properly projecting inventory and cash and aligning that so that it works out, right? If you need to start making product but it's not going to sell for another 90 days or get paid by a vendor, how do you bridge that time? And how do you properly allocate so that you are selling your product at a premium? And it doesn't always have to be at these outlets and these at discounts and stuff, because I feel like brands get tarnished sometimes, right?
Right.
So not to downplay it, but there's, I don't know if you probably had a lot of different entrepreneurs come on, but there's a thing called GMA steals and deals, right? And you put your product up and it goes there, but it's for like 70% off. Now, I sometimes see brands doing that like 3, 4 times a year. And I wonder to myself, like, how much brand tarnishing are you doing? Are you teaching your audience that they're just a steal and deal, right? And it's a quick, and I know you get a lot of people to watch it, right? So for example, Ferrari, right? Ferrari could up their volume and create more cars like Porsche did. Porsche was almost going to go bankrupt, right? In the early 2000s, 90s. Then they came out with the Cayenne model, the SUV, right? And it saved them, right? They pumped a lot out at like sub 50K and it brought in cash, right? Ferrari is an exquisite brand. They have the capability, the funding to create more cars. They don't. They keep it limited because there's exclusivity to it and they keep the pricing at the pricing, right? So,
Right.
and I know it's a way off from a small brand like us, but sometimes I feel like, hey, how do you keep that brand whole and not a discount brand? So, you could always buy more inventory and be like, hey, we're going to do a steals and deals. It didn't sell, or we're going to do a discount sale and it's going to be like 80% off and stuff. But then like, what am I telling the consumer there, right? Challenging. That's my personal view. Might not be right, but that's
Yeah,
what
for sure. It definitely dilutes your brand. I mean, it's yeah, like you said, right? I mean, Porsche definitely had like a lot of people have like a different perception. They're like, oh yeah, well, like Cayenne is a whole different car. But yeah, 100%. So obviously, many brands today are using high level technology like AI. So do you guys currently use AI? And if not, like, where can we give you some more value?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I would say for the first, like we are probably not on the, utilizing AI or even having learning more about AI, right? So we're doing the cookie cutter version of AI tools that are easy to use. But I think in talking to people and really learning, it's like it's on the operator. Like if it's on you to properly understand how you can operate AI to work for you and integrate that in so many facets. And I think I could personally do a much better job of really utilizing it a little bit better than I currently am, more so for just, basic purposes.
Do you guys use it for like customer service?
We don't use it for customer service actually right now, but it's something that, we should be doing.
Hey y'all, it's Dan Melnick, the CEO of Zing, and I wanted to share a special offer for all of our listeners. Right now, if you need software development services, we'll give you 2 weeks of a free trial. Do you need to update your website? Do you want to build a mobile app? Do you want to update something that you've been working on for a long time? We've worked in a high-level technologies like AI, machine learning, blockchain. So shoot me a text, 817-874-2208. Thank you.
Yeah, that's definitely one very common example of a use case where people kind of bring it into their business, especially in e-commerce. So
Yeah, yeah. There's so many applications to it. I think also the AI business is growing so fast, right? And there's
right.
so many tools available that sometimes someone can get overwhelmed a little bit.
100%. So what would you say is the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew before you started your entrepreneurial journey?
I think this is a good piece of advice that I can give, and it's not my advice. I learned it from my mentor, who's a very successful real estate developer in the Northeast. And, talking and just saying, like, how do you manage stress? How do you manage volatility? And I think learning is like for every person, it's an ups and a down in business, right? Like if we're talking right now, I mean, I think you're seeing the global meltdown on the stock markets yesterday,
100%,
today.
yeah.
It's an up and down, and a business owner, you might be at the high, but just remember the down is going to come, and to be able to run with those, right? Don't get
Right.
too low, don't get too high. Know that your plan is not going to work, some aspects of it, and be ready for that. So
100%.
if I was able to learn that a little bit earlier, I could probably handle a little bit better and probably be a better leader for my team as well. So the faster people learn that, I think the more successful they are and the more prepared they would be.
100%. Yeah. I mean, like, I think for me, and one thing I've learned is kind of keeping things even keeled because, yeah, exactly. Like, what you're saying, if you're going to get too up or too down, it's like, it's not good because, yeah, there's always going to be things that are not going to go your way in business.
Yeah, exactly. And just knowing and being prepared for that, I think will make you so much stronger. So if that's one thing I could go back to myself and say, hey, look, it's not as bad as it looks, and it's not always as good, and don't get too carried away. It's the long game you have to be ready for.
100%. So if we're going to have this conversation again in 1 year from now, where do you see things going for your brands?
It's so interesting. I mean, I see, I think this year, particularly for e-commerce, from what everything I'm personally seeing the data and talking to, is going to be a challenging year. And historically, if you go back and look at all US cycle election years, those years are challenging Q4s for everybody because there's just so much anxiety and unknown there, right?
Right.
Buyers. So I think we're taking a cautious approach to this year, and I think that's going to lead us to be in a stronger fiscal position in 2025 to be able to properly move with what the sentiment is. I think we will see, tremendous growth for our brand in 2025, and we are sitting on the sidelines a little bit in 2024 to let the mess kind of not sitting on the sidelines, but taking a cautious approach to be ready to leap in 2025.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I see many brands that are kind of slowing down spending because of how much it's going to cost per click with Google or Meta with all these politicians running ads. So,
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, they have They don't need a ROAS. They don't need a CAC and LTV. They're right. They have money that they have to spend by a certain time that will yield them results then for the next whatever, right? We can't challenge that. And the bidding platforms are going to give it to the highest bidder because that's what they have to tell their shareholders, right? They don't.
Exactly.
So small brands have to just tell their story, or in some cases be okay to sit out, right? Like, it's okay for you to tell if you're looking for an exit 3 years from now, what happened in 2024. And I was just having a conversation with a Shark Tank company actually yesterday about this, and they were down 30% year to date. And I said, it's the way you would tell your story of 2024. Everything is super expensive, right? Inflation is there. Consumers are a bit worried and squeezed and discretionary spending. And you have an election, which is going to be an interesting one with so much spending going on. There's
Correct.
only so many things you can do. And being a smart business owner, you decided that, hey, we just got to let this cycle funnel out and go from it, right? I mean, what did Warren Buffett do on Friday, right? How much Apple stock did he sell off? And then he's buying it back at the dip right now, right? So
100%.
sometimes you have to get out of the game, let the market fix itself, and then get back into it.
100%. So if somebody watching this wanted to reach out, do you mind sharing some of your websites or social media or just the best ways to get in contact?
Yeah, sure. I'm easy to find. LinkedIn's a great place. Hamza Naqvi LinkedIn, Naqvi Brands. One of the brands we have is Ornament Anchor, our Shark Tank Christmas product. And we have a gaming company where we make family fun card and board games, which we started. It's called Boss Dog Games. And you can find, Google Boss Dog Games and you'll easily find me everywhere.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Hamza, I want to say thanks so much for joining the show and best of luck.
Thank you so much, Dan. I really appreciate it. And it was great talking to you. Thanks for taking the time.
Likewise.